Welcome to Hoop de Jour with me, Peter Vecsey, presented by the National Basketball Retired Players Association. So here I am after a long hiatus, back with Hoop de Jour, and I couldn't find, didn't want another guest other than Gail Goodrich. We were partners on the NBA TV for a number of years, and I was always bashful, or no, I'm not bashful. I was always reticent to ask Gail any questions about his career. You know, we were on TV working together, so I didn't want to fawn over him too much. And I did tell him, though, just for so the listeners will know that I did tell him early on that I always wanted to play at UCLA. I used to wear the jacket in the Army. I would have UCLA jackets when I would play outdoors and stuff, and that I always wanted to go, but didn't have the marks or whatever. But I said he's lucky that I didn't go because he would have been the third guy off the bench. It would have been me and Hazard, and
in your dreams.
Exactly. I think you said something more cruel when I said that to you in person. Anyway, great to see you. Great to have you, Gail. I just we're the same age, born the same year, and so I followed your career from the beginning. I was a huge college fan. I didn't follow it in high school, obviously, but let's start a bit at high school because I've read an awful lot about you in the last couple days, and one of the things that jumped out that I didn't know was that how small you were in high school, especially in the beginning, first 3 years, very small, and I felt after reading it that you would have been perfect to play for Adolph Rupp. You could have been with Rupp's Runts.
Well, first of all, Peter, really good to see you again. And we did have a wonderful time there at NBA TV, and it's good to reconnect with you. Well, if you start back at high school, I was very, very small. I was what you call a late bloomer, I guess. You may not know, but when I entered high school, and this is the 10th grade, I was 5'1" and weighed 99 pounds.
It's almost unbelievable.
I just did not grow from in the 7th to the 9th grade. I was, the same size as most everybody else.
Well, let me interrupt. Your father played. How tall was he?
Well, he's 6 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, and my mom was 5'8", which.
So you knew you were going to get taller.
Yes, I did, and but I had a great high school coach, who I was Class D opponents. Okay, you got varsity, junior varsity, B, and C basketball. So in the 10th grade, I had a coach there, the varsity coach. And he had seen me play. I had gone up in the 9th grade and played against the high school kids and everything. And and he wanted to coach me. So he didn't want me playing C basketball or B basketball because there's a different coach. And, I was hoping to play B basketball. My dad had grew late also. He played B basketball in the 10th grade. So, but one day he says, no, I want you to play JV basketball. Now, when I was a mid-semester graduate, so when a mid-semester in February in the LA school system at that time. So when I I was a sophomore in the 10th grade, but when it came basketball season, I had grown 3 inches. So now I was 5'4", but only weighed 99 pounds.
5'4".
So, which was pretty funny. But I played JV basketball. And I played the point guard. Everybody else on the team, was over 6 feet. And I could not shoot a jump shot from the top of the key. Why? Because I couldn't get it there. I was not strong enough. So I shot the ball, taking one step forward like Bob Cousy did. And that was the way I could shoot a 20-foot jump or shot, okay? And I was a good JV player. I was, well, I'm a great player. I was a second team all league and I averaged 10 points a game, okay? But I was a point guard and, I could pass, dribble, and do, a lot of things from a skill perspective. So the next year, when I'm a junior, I grow and I'm 5'8", 120. And
a He-Man.
Yeah. And we got a pretty good team and we go to the city playoffs. And the first round, I have a very good game. And Coach Wooden is sitting behind my parents, and he had come there with a friend of his to see someone else. There's a whole list of games or the whole day. And he makes a remark to his friend. He says, that little left-hander out there really knows the game. He's knowledgeable. And if he grows, he said, he may be able to help us in a couple of years. And so my mom, who is all ears, turns around and says, because she knows who he is. And my dad was sitting there, he knows who he is as well. She says, well, do you really mean what you said about that's my son? And he said, yes, I do. So anyway, we get beat the next round by Fremont High School, and Joe Caldwell is the star at that time.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Caldwell, by the way, who's one of the best defensive players in history, and he's guarding you, right?
Well, he did.
Yeah.
So the first they pressed full court, and man to man, and so what we did is they threw the ball into me and out of bounds. They scored first, and I turn around and there's Joe Caldwell guarding me. And Joe Caldwell was 6'5" at the time, but everybody clears out and I bring the ball up, and you can't take the ball away from me. I mean, you can't. The pressure, So anyway, I played pretty good. They beat us and they go on to win the city championship. Of course, they have a really good team. And but Wooden saw me play as a junior, and now for next year, in the senior year, during the summer we play. We're very good. We got a good team. We got a couple of big guys, and so he brings my dad and I down to watch practice at UCLA. I don't know, 10 miles away from where I grew up, and Coach Wooden offers me a scholarship for 4 years. Now, he had just seen me play as a 5'8", 120 player. But now I grow to this point in my senior, I'm 5'11", and I weigh 135. A strong 135.
A robust.
So anyway, and I think the assistant coach had come to games in the summertime. We played in a couple of leagues, like all players were playing all the time. And at that time, our coach couldn't coach because that was a rule. So my dad, who was an all-coast player at USC in 1930, then captain of the team in 1939, and he really started me with all the fundamentals on that. He was really the fundamentals. So anyway, we're good. And Wooden offers me a scholarship. Now, mind you, that's the first scholarship offer I get. Okay. Santa Barbara was interested in me. They sent me some letters and everything, but they got no scholarships. My parents have no money to send me to school, and so it was my dream to go to college and get a scholarship, and play at the college level, like my dad. So anyway, we go through the season. We play during the season. We play one game at night or two night games. All the other games in the afternoon. And Wooden comes to one of my games and watches. And the assistant coach, Jerry Norman, also. And I always say, well, I think Wooden came, and he doesn't go to see players play. I mean, he doesn't go to the games. You know, at that time, the assistant coach he recruited, and so he comes, and I always said, well, I think he came because maybe he wasn't quite sure. But anyway, we will go on and win the city championship. And just before the city championship, USC, my dad, who went to SC, he takes me down to watch practice, okay, at SC, because he felt, you know, he went there, and maybe in a little bit of his deep down, he would, I guess, like me to go. Now, mind you, I grew up a Trojan fan. I went to all the football games. My dad had a lifetime pass. I went to the Rose Bowl games. I slept with his Letterman blanket. But I have not. But I got a letter, you know, a month before I'm going to graduate. I graduate in February. Okay, mid. Stanford and Cal, they contact my coach because I ended up being the second leading scorer in the city that year. By the way, Rich Levin, our friend, was a leading scorer.
Right. So for people who don't know, Rich Levin became a sports writer and then worked for Major League Baseball. And I think he beat you by 1 point.
Well, I don't know what he beat me by.
I think it was just 1 point, and then you wind up playing at UCLA together. But he watches you. He doesn't.
And I was his roommate too as a freshman.
How about that?
Yeah. But anyway, so
he couldn't handle me.
Well, I get a little story about that too. I mean, but anyway, so we play, and we play in the city championship. And anyway, SC makes a last second push, and those are the only 2 scholarships I get offered. Cal and Stanford were sort of interested. Stanford didn't have a mid-semester entrance. My mom wanted me to go to school right away. Cal was de-emphasizing sports. That's why Pete, in particular basketball, that's why Pete Newell left. So
I didn't know that. They won the championship in what?
I know.
50,
they won in 59 or 60.
59. Yeah.
Yeah, 59. Lost Ohio State in 60.
Yeah.
So anyway, and in the championship game, I chipped my ankle bone. Okay, at the beginning of the third quarter, they tape it up on the sidelines and then come back and play. And anyway, I ended up being the Los Angeles City Player of the Year. And Wooden comes to the final game, and this is on a Wednesday night. I chipped my ankle bone. I'm on crutches in the cast, and I graduate Friday night. And I tell Wooden Wednesday night after the game, I meet with him and my parents and him, and I said I'll be at school on Monday morning. There's no signing of any documents or anything. I just show up on Monday morning and I enroll in class. And so, you know, times have really changed, obviously.
Different days.
Yeah, different days. So anyway, and so that's how I get to UCLA. I was very fortunate that, you know, I got lucky because greatest college ever.
And he did too. I mean, up until then, John, 62, UCLA gets to the finals, right? They lose to who?
They lose to Cincinnati on a last-second shot by Tom Thacker, who I played against in the Bros, and he can't hit an 18-footer, but he hit one that beat UCLA.
They would, you know, amazingly, yeah. So that's Cincinnati, Ed Jucker, right? And
yep.
Before Oscar, when they had Oscar for 3 years, they did not win a championship, and he graduates, and they won at least 2 championships.
That's right. They won 2.
Kind of interesting. But my point is that, you know, Wooden, you have, you know, unbelievable. Everybody has, you know, unbelievable respect for John Wooden. you know, the pyramid of success and everything that went with it. Your first year on the varsity, second year on the varsity, 64, you win a championship, 65, a championship. But before that, I mean, John Wooden is another coach in the country. To me, I mean, it's all of a sudden now he's winning championships, and so he's very lucky to have you. Walt has it in the back court with the 64 championship, 65 championship. You could name a few players on that team. I love Freddie Slaughter. I got to be good friends with him when he was an agent. Was a good source of mine, I must say.
Yeah. No, he was. By the way, Fred Slaughter was the fastest guy on our team. He was
Really?
He came to UCLA on a half track and a half basketball scholarship.
What?
From Topeka, Kansas. Yep. He had grown up in Los Angeles, but then moved when he went to high school with his mom to Topeka, Kansas. And he ended up, by the way, also being my roommate my sophomore year.
And he played center, right?
He was center, 6'5", about 240, 230. And he, from inline to inline, he was the fastest guy. He ran, I think, a 9.9, 10 flat 100 in high school. Yeah. I
knew he was a good player. I had no idea about all that. Like I said, we became real confidants over the years. Who else was on that team? That
Keith Erickson.
Keith Erickson,
who played 10 years in the NBA,
he was
on both of our teams, and he probably was the best athlete of all of us. I mean, he was. There's no question. He was extremely athletic. Transferred from El Camino Junior College as after 1 year as a sophomore, a pleasant surprise. He came to UCLA on a half baseball, half basketball scholarship.
And he was also on your championship Laker team that won 33 in a row.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, amazing you guys stick it together so much over the years. Didn't you play baseball at UCLA?
I did. When I entered as a freshman in February, I didn't play basketball right away for the rest of the year because you only had 4 years. You had 5 years to play. You only have 4. You could only play 4 years from the time you entered. So, although I could have redshirted, I guess 1 year, so I didn't play basketball till the following year. But I played baseball that year. I played as a freshman, and then I played baseball after my freshman basketball season. I played varsity baseball, so I played 2 years.
You were pretty good, right?
I think so.
I mean,
I started and I played the whole season for 2 years. I played more baseball growing up than I did basketball, and then I played semi-pro after my sophomore year in basketball. And then those left-handers started throwing curveballs, and so I was bailing out too many times. You couldn't throw the ball by me, but you could throw that junk, and I didn't do it particularly well after my freshman year. My freshman year I hit 431, but my sophomore year I hit a little over 200. Which, by the way, I didn't realize this, that was actually better than Jackie Robinson did at UCLA. Which is amazing. Yeah. Our coach, who I played sophomore baseball with, he was a senior and I was a sophomore. He later became the coach, Gary Adams at UCLA, and he wrote a book, and he mentioned in the book that I actually hit a little bit more than Jackie Robinson. It was interesting.
Well, I would have liked.
Of course, Jackie became obviously improved a lot more.
He says he could have beaten you in basketball, though, so you never know. Look, yeah. He played basketball at UCLA. Played football. He played.
Yep. I mean, tremendous athlete,
right?
Tremendous athlete. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So we could get bogged down. I know you and I have spoken about this before, about what a great Dodger fan you were when they moved to LA. I was a Brooklyn Dodger fan, but I'm just going to let it go at that. That you used to go to games, right? You used to, but
Yep.
we're going to talk basketball for the most part today. But I could
Okay.
talk baseball with you all day
Okay.
because I was such a Dodger fan. But as far let's just stay on John Wooden a second.
Sure.
What did he, if anything, or what's the best thing he taught you, the thing that's carried with you your whole life about life? Not about basketball, but about life.
Well, I think that a number of things. I could go on forever on this, but basically, probably the biggest thing he taught me about was balance. And balance, he was always referred to on the basketball court by unbalanced, individually balanced, team-wise. But I also listened to him later in life about being balanced in life. And, when something goes awry and gets out of balance, generally good things don't happen. It's like a teeter-totter, which on each side you got a balance in the thing. And in the middle it balances. And if it goes one way or the other way, until it gets back in balance, generally things happen that are not good. So that's one thing that he really taught me about, that I learned from him.
Were you ever off balance so badly that
Well, I no, I don't think so. I mean, I did, had a lot of uh, help and guidance from my parents, and I don't think that I really got out of balance too much. It not very, not like, you know, not to the point where I was in trouble, but I think that that's one key thing as you go through life, because life is a journey, that I really had learned too. The other thing, um, which I think I still learn, that I learned from Wooden, who was just tremendous at communication. I mean, a lot of coaches I think, are very good with X's and O's, but Wooden had that ability to understand students, people, and to communicate with them, um, at any age. Um, Later, I was fortunate enough when the McDonald's All-American game was in New York, and I was, as you know, living in Connecticut. Um, Wooden, who had been involved with McDonald's All-American game from the very beginning, and he invited me and whoever had whoever was in charge of the production invited me to. They have a dinner the night before, both men and girls, or boys and girls, and they invited me to introduce him, and I did at this banquet in New York, and then he gets up and speaks. I can tell you now, these kids sort of know who he is, but they don't really know. There's 17, 18-year-old kids, and he's, this is in Connecticut. I mean, he's in the 70s anyway.
mm,
And you could hear a pin drop. I mean, there's 300 people there at least. And these kids, like I said, you could hear a pin drop, and he's communicating with them. He communicated with the players. He communicated, whatever age. He had that ability, and he had the ability to understand players. He communicated with them. He taught players the difference. Kids come to UCLA play basketball. They come from different cultures, different backgrounds. and he brings everybody together. And the goal, of course, is to develop a team. And he doesn't treat everybody the same. He motivates them differently. And he's, he was able to get the results. Now, he'd be the first to tell you that he had great players. You got Jabbar, you got Walton, you got Wilkes, you got Hazard, you got myself, you got Keith. And I could go on and on. We got Sidney Wick, all great players. But sometimes having great players and you have you have two or three of them on a team is not so easy to get them to play together as a team. That's what he was able to do. Mm-hmm. And he was able to do that. And, he basically played with 7 or 8 players. That's what he played. Now, the other players that didn't play, they probably don't like him as much. They want to play. Because Wooden said, everybody wants to play. They want to play more minutes. And he always said, I have the hammer. And you basically better do it his way, or he's going to sit you over there on the bench.
Right. Christine McVie said that too.
Who?
Christine McVie. She said, players only love you when they're playing.
Yeah. But he'd sit you over on the bench, he'd draw you up, but he'd come back with you. He didn't sit over there and just lose. He didn't lose you. He'd bring you back. When we had a play when I was playing there, and Hazard and I, of course, we scored the most points. We took the most shots. We had the system that we ran, and you scored or whatever in the system. You didn't deviate from the system. We had a play where the guard would dribble towards the forward clears out. And that's the only time that really a guard or anyone could go one-on-one. He didn't believe in one-on-one play. He wanted passing and cutting and within the system and the execution. And anyway, so I would, once in a while, I dribble to the side and clear out, and I was able to go one-on-one. And so one time I did that probably a little bit too much. And so at the next free throw, he calls me over to the side, and he says, Gail, he says, let's get back to our passing and cutting. Let's get back to our offense. Let's move the basketball, pass, cut, It was his way of saying to me, his way of saying to me, I don't want that one-on-one stuff anymore.
Right.
It was the way that he said, let's play the way we're capable of playing. And, anyway, that was Coach Wood.
Yeah. Interesting. The best compliment I could give you, Gail, is that you remind me a lot of him. Your demeanor, the way you treat people and just being around you over the years. So that's the best thing I could say about you. Your game, of course, speaks for itself. But let me just give you a Wooden situation here. You're in the finals in '65, and you're playing Michigan. I think you'd already beaten Michigan before. You had whipped Kathy Russell before, but now they're favored. They're favored to beat you in the finals, and you get 42. Yeah. And Wooden takes you out. You win by 11, but he takes you out with how many minutes to go?
Not that many. 2 or 3 minutes. Something like that.
I thought it was more like 4 or 5. But okay,
maybe it was. Maybe.
So he takes you out, and they give the most outstanding player award to Bill Bradley, who got 58 points and 17 rebounds, I think, in the semifinal. No, the consolation.
The consolation.
So what does Wooden say to you uncharacteristically as the award is being given to Bradley?
Well, I don't think they had an award ceremony.
Well, it was announced.
It was announced, I guess. Well, when he took me out, he I said to him as he came down to me and talked to me, I said, we did it. And I said, we did it. And he said, yeah. And he said, you were the best. He had never said that to me before. He said, you were the best. And, or he said, you are the best. But it was pretty moving.
Yeah, yeah. It still is moving that he would say that, and he was basically saying that you got jobbed. Like
Well,
why does
I
it?
don't know. I didn't see the game. I
Well, I'm
understand
saying it.
Bradley was
That's my
I understand he was exceptional. And but I didn't really care because we had gone there to win, as we did the year before. And if we wouldn't have won, we would have been very disappointed. I hear about in the Final Four, it's a great tournament. Everybody's so excited about getting to the Final Four. Well, I could say at UCLA, we were happy to get to the Final Four, but we went there with the attitude, we're going to win. And if we would have lost, we would have been very, very disappointed. We weren't just happy to get to the Final Four. We were going there to win.
Right.
Well,
you guys started it. You and Hazard started that. Then after that, they win 8 out of. Well, he won 10 altogether, but 8 after you. But yeah, you guys started the winning. So, are you disappointed by? Well, no. I'm going to take. Let's just stay with Hazard a second. Why do you think that Walt Hazzard didn't have a more productive career in the pros? He was a sensational college player. Then he goes to the Lakers. He actually started ahead of you when you went to the Lakers.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, first of all, the pro game is a little bit different than the college game. It's obviously another level in terms of playing against skilled players, but the whole style and the approach, it's different. Now the rules are changed. They didn't have 3-point play then. But I think if you are playing a guard position, you have to be able to put the ball in the basket. You don't have to be a scorer, but you can be a distributor. Okay. First of all, when we were playing, you didn't have a point guard and a shooting guard. Guards play both.
Right.
So but I think you have to be able to put the ball in the basket. And Walt was never a great shooter from the outside. He could penetrate. He had a little floater. And I think that as good as he was, there was no one better as a passer in college. And I'll say that at that time, you talk about Magic, you can talk about Di Gregorio, you could talk about anybody that is a great passer in college. Walt was as good as any of them. Okay. And so, but you get to the pros, I think you got to be able to shoot the basketball. And he was never a great shooter. He was not a great defensive player. We pressed full court and, played up tempo and get the ball up and down the court and wide open. And that suited Walt defensively as well as offensively. So the other thing is that a lot of players, that are really good in college are individually one-on-one. They got to have the ball in their hands. Walt was not a player that you would say went without the basketball. At UCLA, Walt had the ball most of the time as a guard, and rightfully so. And I had to learn to play without the basketball, and that's one thing that Wooden really taught me to do. And because up until I got to UCLA, out in high school and even as a freshman, I had the basketball all the time. And Wooden came to me and said, I want you to learn to go without the basketball. Walt will get you the ball. We'll get you the ball in a position where you can be a triple threat. You can put the ball on the floor, you can be a passer, or you can penetrate, or you can shoot. And you can put the ball in the basket. So he taught me to go without the basketball. And that was very valuable because now I'm playing in the pros, and the most success I had with Jerry West at the other guard. And again, West had the, he's supposed to have the basketball most of the time. So if I'm going to contribute anyway offensively, I got to learn to make myself attractive within the system and get in position where I can get the ball. And I had learned that initially from UCLA, and then of course I got better as a senior doing that. Now, when I was in Phoenix, I had the basketball more. So, I said we didn't have point guards, and so I was able to have to be able to offensively perform with the basketball, but really mostly without the basketball. I don't think
let's
Walt,
stop.
Walt,
Let me
never,
stop you there. Let me stop you there, Gail. So, all right, you're in Phoenix. It's one of my points of emphasis. So, you had 2 years with the Lakers. You're picked up in the expansion draft, which is
right.
unbelievable that they could get Gail Goodrich in an expansion draft.
I can make a case why I went to Phoenix in the expansion draft. I was not. I would like to say I was good, but I was not a star with the Lakers my first 3 years.
Right.
And I actually wanted to go in the expansion draft, and I lobbied to do that.
Okay.
Because I felt that in order for me to get better as a basketball player, I had to have more minutes. Now, you can argue whether I didn't get enough minutes or not in Los Angeles based on our team, but I had a coach, Fred Schaus, and then Van Bredikoff, and they weren't my favorite coaches. Doesn't mean they were bad. They weren't my bad. I'm not saying they were bad, they were bad coaches, but
let me say, Freddie Schaus was Jerry West's college coach, and he didn't like him as a pro coach.
Well, they didn't appreciate my talents as much as I did. Okay, so I thought that if I went in the expansion draft, that I would have an opportunity to play more minutes and develop as a player. And as it turned out, I did. I went there in Phoenix, lobbied to go to Phoenix as opposed to Milwaukee, since I'm a beach guy and I like the sun. But I went to Phoenix. I then handled the ball more. We know in LA, West is going to handle the ball. Nothing against West. West should handle the ball, and anyway, but I go to Phoenix. I learned to handle the ball. We play against I really play well against the Lakers. We had them down 3-1 in the playoffs before Wilt decided to play and take over the game, and they beat us in 7. But then, they trade for me back.
All right. Well, let me stop. I don't want to go past that yet because I definitely want to talk about you being traded back to the Lakers. But so you're in LA. You're playing behind Jerry West and Walt Hazzard, and then Archie Clark comes. So you're still a third guard. Now you go to Phoenix. You get to handle the ball, and Connie Hawkins is not happy with you shooting as much as you did. And,
wait a minute. He doesn't come to the second year. Okay. The first year, but you're right. Go, Connie, go ahead. In the second year, he comes, and now we have Connie, and we have Paul Silas, and we have Van Arsdale. We have a good team. And Dick Snyder.
Very good.
And I always felt that if I stayed in Phoenix, that we were really going to be good because that we had a good nucleus there. But anyway, go ahead. Go back to your.
I just wondered what you thought of your portrayal in the book Foul by David Wolf. Connie was on your ass, and so I've never asked you. I've always wanted to ask you, what did you think about that when you were reading it, when you were going through it?
Well, a lot of books I didn't really read it. I didn't read it. I lived this. I didn't have to read it, but I had
Well, you
heard
should
about
read it. It's a good book.
it. But I heard about it. But anyway, listen, Connie was an exceptional player, and um, he came to Phoenix, and I did shoot the ball a lot. I shot the ball a lot in my whole career. But I think with Connie, we halfway through the season, I mean, we were trying to get together to play together, and that was a learning experience for me. I think it was a learning experience for Connie as well to try to mesh together to play together as a team, as it was for me to play with Paul Silas, who, by the way, he just passed away, and I always thought that he was a very, very underrated player. Um,
One of my favorite people in the
oh
NBA.
yeah, no
Absolutely.
question about it. But for once, I learned one thing there that I didn't really realize, and that was that you come down on a break, and I had been taught, and I'm in the middle on the break. You throw the ball to whoever is the most open, based on the defense. And what happened, I think more than once, obviously, because I think it upset Connie at some point, is that I bypassed him and passed it to the other guy on the left instead of he's on the right. And finally, Colangelo said something to me that sticks to me to this day, is that with Connie on the wing, and if Connie's open, they both may be open, but one is more open than the other. And it's easier for me to pass one way or the other based upon the defense. And I always chose the one that was most open, the easiest way from this. But that's not necessarily where the ball should have gone. And it should have gone to Connie, say, on the other side, because Connie can do more with the ball than a Dick Snyder. Dick Snyder may be able to shoot the jumper better from outside. In fact, if he'd make a living in the three-point shot today, because he can just stand and shoot. But he's not the guy who can then make the next play. But Connie can make the play. And if you get the ball to Connie, he's going to make the play. He's going to score. He's going to pass it, wherever, okay, to the next person. So I learned that, and that was a learning experience for me.
And Jerry told that to you. He was coaching.
Jerry, he coached the team halfway through the season. He replaced Johnny Kerr, and he became the coach. And it's always stuck with me. And even when I watch games today, there are certain people that you get the ball to, and at the right time, who can make the play. That doesn't mean you just go there all the time. When I was in LA at the beginning, Baylor and West had the ball, and everybody clears out and stands around. Well, that way of playing does not work, and it's become very evident as the progression of basketball has evolved. But when I was in LA, the ball went to the Baylor or West, and the other three guys go over here and stand. But that was obviously it's against the Wooden principles, and it was when I first went to LA, I didn't like that. I had learned basketball a different way. But I think that you get now. You can see it. You get the ball to the guys who can finish, and I learned that from Colangelo. And I think by the halfway through the season that Connie and I, we were always friends. We didn't get along. And I think we learned that, and he realized that I had to learn that. And we got along fine.
So Gail, you only spent 2 years in Phoenix, correct?
Right.
So, and then you get traded back to the Lakers. And let me just say this, like what was going on that they would give you up for, no disrespect to this guy, but he's not on your level. Mel Counts, 7-footer, outside shooter, not a great rebound, whatever. Explain that to me. How did that happen? Why?
Contract negotiations.
Oh, okay.
My wife and I at that time, we had planned in the summertime after the season to go to Europe and to tour Europe. And we went to Europe for, I don't know, 8-10 weeks during the summer. And my contract was up. So Colangelo and I are visiting, and I said, Jerry, we were $10,000 apart.
Oh my goodness.
Well, this is an interesting story.
Yeah, my
So
goodness.
I said to Jerry, and Jerry was a very good friend. My wife at the time was a very close friend of Jerry's wife. Okay.
Joan.
And Joan, yeah. And the kids, they love me. Okay. His kids, you know, the two girls and Brian and me. And so before I leave, Jerry and I have a talk. And I say, Jerry says, look, we're $10,000 apart. I said, Jerry, he said, now 10,000 to me at that time is a lot of money. Okay. So I said, listen, someone's going to pay it. I said, if you don't pay it, I understand it's a business decision, but someone's going to pay it. So, yeah, and we laugh about it later, but because he's still, you know, he's a good friend, and so
yeah, he should have fired himself.
And so no, he made a couple other decisions that I would question too. But
exactly.
Anyway, so I go to Paris. Now I wanted to stay in Phoenix. I thought we were building something there. I liked it in Phoenix. So I fly to Paris. I no sooner get there, I'm jet lagged. It's in the middle of the night. And I get a call from the Lakers. And they tell me they just traded for me. I'm half out of it. I'm in the middle of the night.
But aren't you a free agent?
No, they don't have free agency there.
No, I understand. I understand the term, but your contract is up.
My contract is up. So
and they're still allowed to trade.
He doesn't want to pay the money, so he trades me for Mel Counts.
Incredible.
And so anyway, the Lakers, you know, it's the Lakers. They called me. They told me they just traded for me. And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "I'm in." They knew where I was. I said, "I'm in Europe. I'll be there. I'm here for 10 weeks, whatever it was." I just got there the first night, and I said, "I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you when I get back. Goodbye." It lasted a minute.
Who was it that called, Gail?
Wait a minute. To this day, Colangelo never told me. Never called me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So anyway, and so
you thanked him in your Hall of Fame
later,
speech.
you know, later, Jerry said, "Look," he said, "we needed a center, and another 7-footer." He says, "I felt at the time that I could get a 7-footer for a 6'1" guard, and so I took it." And later, you know, I used to tell Jerry all the time, "Listen, the year of the $200,000 guard is right around the corner." And Jerry would say real quick, I mean, Jerry's, you know, very, very savvy. He said, "Maybe so, Gail, but it's not in Phoenix." Anyway, and by the way, the 200,000 was not even close to where I was asking for. But anyway, so I got traded back to Los Angeles.
And you got what you wanted from the Lakers?
Yes. Oh, yeah, they paid. Yeah. And anyway, that's how I got to Phoenix. To LA from Phoenix.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a place where I generally wanted to go. And then, of course, the coach at that time. Then they hired Joe Mulaney, who was the coach at the Lakers. That became the coach at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So all right. So now we're with the Lakers, and Mulaney is replaced by Bill Sharman, and who I consider, you know, one of the greatest coaches of all time. Right up there. I look at him as being like a John Wooden type.
Yep.
He won
Absolutely.
everywhere. He won everywhere as a player, as a coach, everywhere.
Right.
They're both in the Hall of Fame as a player and a coach. So
And
he comes. What's
by the
that?
way, let me just interject here one thing. Sharman and Wooden were very close, and Sharman went to Wooden numerous times, and they talked. I mean, so you're absolutely right in
Yeah,
terms of
man. I'm
their
not
approach. And
surprised.
he, the only difference is that Sharman, and because of the team we had, he was what I would call a player's coach. Wooden, you always did it Wooden's way. That was the only difference. But they talked about numerous ways to approach basketball and how to play. Go ahead. I'm sorry for
Yeah,
interrupting.
no, so no, that's great. So Bill Sharman comes there, and that's the year that you guys wind up winning 33 straight. And
Right.
he had just won a championship with Utah, with the Utah Stars.
Right.
He had won a championship in the ABL, and but his approach to players is what always struck me as being unconventional. Like his approach to you can say in a second, but with Wilt, he wanted Wilt to go to shoot arounds,
Right.
and Wilt said, I'll show up, once a day, whether you want me for a shoot around or for the game, you take your pick. But he wound up coming to shoot arounds, and I believe. And the practices I heard were phenomenal back in those days. I've spoken to players who your teammates like Jim McMillan, and he talks about those practices, and he talked about you as being the catalyst in those practices, because he said very easy, you're winning 20, 30 in a row, and he said, how do you get up for a practice? And he said you were the reason that they were so passionate in practice, that you would go full. Does that ring a bell? Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. Practices there was no fooling around. Um, and, again, that goes back to, I guess, my upbringing, from my dad to my high school coach, and then Wooden. I enjoyed practices. I practiced hard. Um, Johnny Kerr, when I played for him in Phoenix, the same thing. I thought that that's the way you get better. You play in a game, how you practice. So I played hard. And that's what I did. And I worked on things in practice that I knew that I would say, take a practice. Okay, I'm going to shoot the basketball for this time. And the other time I say, well, let me work on my passing or work on my defense. But I worked hard in practice. And Sharman was the same way. I mean, he believed in, no fooling around, just, no casual. You work hard and you play hard. And so, yeah, that's the way
Did
I
he?
practice.
Did he? So he got to Wilt. He got to him. He got Wilt to do what he wanted him to do.
Wilt never missed a practice. I shoot around. He loved it.
So there you go. So there you go. So I wasn't sure of that. So okay. So he gets Wilt to do what he wants. He told West. Jerry told me that he told him that he wanted him to pass more, and
Okay. Yeah.
he winds up leading the league in assists, I believe,
He
right?
did. He did. He
That
did.
year, right?
Right.
Did he have anything to say? Well, I got one more thing to throw out to you. So Pat Riley told me that those practices, he's on the team also. He's like the seventh
Yep.
man or so, eighth man. And he said those practices, he said they were unbelievable. He said I had to guard Jim McMillan in practice. And he
Yeah.
said Jim McMillan's playing, who took over when Elgin retired, after 9 games in the season, and then you go on this streak. But he says, here's Jim McMillan playing, 38, 40 minutes a game, and you'd think he would take it easy in practice. He says, no. He says, so I have to get beat up every day in practice by Jim McMillan.
Well, that's interesting that Riley would say that. And listen, yeah, I mean, McMillan was a great practice player too. I mean, some players are just, they're not great practice players. They don't go full speed. They play a lot of minutes. But we practiced hard. I mean, we went to Hawaii for our preseason camp, and this was in September, and it's humid, and we play in this uh, non-air conditioned, little gym, and 2 a days, and we run. Sharman, the Celtics were so great at running and getting the ball out and go. He convinced Wilt that he didn't have to come over half court if he passed the ball out quick, and we got down the court, and we became a running team, and that we did. We averaged 121 points that year as a team, and. But those practices were, we practiced. I mean, practice was a practice. It wasn't the shoot arounds were, they were shoot arounds. There were 20 minutes that then became 30 minutes. But and I think Riley, when he went to New York as a coach, he had that same mentality about the physicality of the game and playing defense. And that, I mean, Riley would guard me, and he beat the hell out of me. And I said, God damn, Riles. I said, get a saddle. I mean, but it was good for me because I'm going to play. And in those days, the game, you hold and you can use your hands. You can't do that anymore. You run without the basketball, you get bumped, so your timing gets off. It was more physical. In many respects. Now, I'm not sure about more physical under the boards, but that's that's the way we played. And we were a very good defensive team, but everybody focused on the fact that we could get out and run and score. And like I said, we averaged 121 points that year. And Sharman, some of my players would say, well, I shot a lot, and I did. But Sharman he pulled me over one day. He said, look, Gail, he says, you get out and run. We're going to get you the ball. He says, he says, if you feel that you have a good shot, take it. I don't care if anybody else is coming behind you. If they want the ball, they will get down the court too. But you have a good shot. Don't force the shots. But you have a good shot, take it. And it was really sort of like he played with the Celtics, if you recall. And so, West, I get the ball out on the break. And, of course, I always thought I had a good shot. But, I wasn't going to force it, But no, I was taught not to force shots long before
and you
that.
led the team.
I led the team in scoring. I also led the team in number of shots. And I remember one game and at halftime, this is a couple of stories. You'll love this. So Casey Jones is our assistant coach.
Right.
So we're playing halftime. We go to start the second half, and Casey's got the stat sheet. And he'd say, and I'd maybe have, I don't know, 10, 12 shots at halftime, normally something like that. He'd say, and maybe I have 8. Maybe I'd made 8. Who knows, whatever. A good percentage. And he'd say, Gail, saturation method, keep shooting. Okay? I had the green light. Both from Sharman and to shoot.
Saturation method.
Yeah. Now wait a minute. Now the next game we're playing, maybe I'm 1 for 10. And he sits there. He was a stat sheet. He says, Gail, 1 for 10. He says, saturation method. Keep shooting. So, it was like eventually it's going to drop because I could put the ball. Eventually it was going to drop. And, all scorers have to believe that every shot they take is going in. Yeah. It's not, but you got to believe it because if you don't believe it's going in, it's not going in. Right. And that's one thing that I really learned there.
So Gail, a two-pronged question. How do you think that you would do in today's game where they can't touch you because you were a driver. You
Right.
you would
Yeah.
you would you love to be go to the line. You'd go to the line. But the second thing is, would the fact that the 3-point shot, which is just everybody in the world thinks they can make it, would that have influenced your game about going to the hoop?
Well, I think I was probably third or fourth, a couple of for most free throws attempted, which means I went to the hoop a lot. Okay. I think that would have helped me because first of all, I could shoot the ball out there. Didn't to shoot the ball more than 20 feet because I didn't have to. I didn't get any reward for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the Gays game is more wide open. There's no center in there clogging the game is there basically isn't a center these days. There's even what's his name in Milwaukee, the center played in Stanford.
Giannis.
No, no. The
Oh,
center.
Lopez. Yeah.
Lopez is out there shooting 30-footers.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think he has a great percentage. I would say get in closer. I mean, get in around the basket, you're a little more effective. But he does hit him out there.
Yeah, he's better than LeBron and Westbrook.
There's the defense is spread out. Now they do play more team defense, but the game is spread out more. So that means those lanes are open. Now you go to the basket today, and everybody collapses, and then they kick it out, and everybody wants to shoot a three. Yeah. Well, I could shoot the three. West never shot the ball outside of 21 feet. I mean, but he, again, Oscar, same thing. But given the 3-point play and the reward, yeah, the guards we would have been able to shoot that. I mean, downtown Freddie Brown could shoot. He'd make another living shooting. As Dick Snyder, who I always thought was one of the best catch and shoot guys, right. They make a living too. But the game has changed so much. But yeah, I think that
would have made you much better.
It would have opened it up and made it. I think easier to get to the basket. Today's. I mean, if you can, today's players and it's when I played, you got to be able to create your own shot. Now, yeah, you go without the basketball. One of the best players going without the basketball, no one talks about it, is Steph Curry. Steph Curry, you watch him when he doesn't have the basketball and he starts running off screens, with speed to get open and get in a position where he could get the ball. That's sort of how I played. Havlicek played that way, going without the basketball. But once you get the basketball, you got to be able to put it on the floor or create a shot. And those players who can create shots for themselves are really the star players today.
Gail, how many points do you think you would have scored? You scored over 19,000 and in your career, and you are the fourth highest scorer from the lefty position. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. So yeah, you're fourth. Harden is one.
Yep.
And he's got the benefit of the three. David Robinson is ahead of you, and Bob Lanier.
I knew Bob.
And you're fourth.
Yeah.
And you're fourth. So how many points do you think that would have added to your total if you were shooting the three all those years? You should have turned ABA. You should have gone ABA, Gail.
I don't know. I also got hurt one season that I didn't.
Yes.
Really, but
in New Orleans, yeah.
Yeah, New Orleans. I don't know. I think it's irrelevant.
No, I know. It's just a
I know
conversation. Just a conversation.
Yeah, it is a conversation. But I think the one legacy that I think that I'm really proud of is that I won at every level. I won at the high school level, I won at the college level, and won at the pro level. And at the end of the day, basketball is a team game. It's always been a team game. And I can proudly say that was on championship teams at every level. The other thing I think is I can proudly say is it's easier to be the top scorer on a bad team because they go to you most of the time. If you're the top scorer on a championship team, that means more.
Yes.
From a scoring perspective, if you
I,
will. Yeah.
I definitely feel you. So that championship team, the Lakers, first time that they won in LA. I don't think that some of the players on the team get their due. They never even talked about. But before I get to guys like Happy Hairston,
Right.
tell me what before the championship team before that season, what was it like playing with Elgin Baylor? What was he like? I know he nicknamed you. I'm not even going to repeat the nickname because I'm a real good guy at nicknaming people. I didn't like the one he gave you.
well, Elgin had nicknames for everybody, but
Really?
particularly for those people who he liked and got along. And we were friends. We ran a basketball camp together. I mean, we and then of course he coached me in New Orleans. He in many ways helped revolutionize the game. I mean, he had remarkable skills. Now, I just played with him at the end of his career after his knee injury, but I can tell you that when he came to Los Angeles, and I would go down and watch the games or watch it, but they didn't have too much TV. But I watched when he came in, and I guess I'm in high school at the time. In '60 they come, yeah. So I'm in high school. I'm maybe junior in high school. He'd take the ball off the defensive rebound, and he'd go to the length of the field on the dribble and beat everybody down the court. He was so quick and so strong. Sometimes he'd drive, and he could hang in the air. I mean, this is before Julius Erving. I mean, he was just head and shoulders in terms skill-wise above everybody else.
Right.
And outside of maybe Oscar. Okay, Oscar is, at the guard position. But certainly at the forward position, Bob Pettit was a different type of player, a great player, of course. But he was remarkably skilled and strong. He was such a good guy. I mean,
never gets his due today, though. It's just so sickening that these young people don't understand his greatness.
Well, that's true. I mean, there was basically no TV. I mean, I used to watch the games on Sunday morning when he was in Minneapolis, and they always had. Celtics were always on because they were good, but they had game of the week, and that was the only television for professional basketball. And the Lakers finally, after years, put a statue there at now the Crypto Center, but it used to be the Staples. I mean, when he and Chick Hearn came to Los Angeles, they introduced professional basketball to Los Angeles. West was a rookie that year, but it was Elgin's team. I mean, Elgin was the star. Of course, Chick Hearn was the announcer. And they, through those two players, the popularity of professional basketball in Los Angeles grew and grew and grew. And then, of course, West as well. But Elgin was a phenomenal player, way ahead of his time. And it's such a good guy. I mean, and very competitive. He don't play him in cards. I mean, he took Chick Hearn's money all the time, playing gin. But yeah, don't play him in cards. He is very competitive.
I heard they had to outlaw playing cards on the plane to stop him from.
Because he'd take everybody's money. And now that was, we didn't have that money to begin with that much.
So Elgin is, one of my pet peeves of not getting the recognition he deserves. But then you go to somebody like Happy Hairston, who I watched play at NYU with Cal
Right.
Rams. No, I'm sorry, with Barry Kramer.
With Barry Kramer, right?
And
Yep.
nobody ever talks about him. Nobody mentions what a great player he was. In your championship year, he averaged 13 rebounds, 13.1, I believe, and 13.1 points on the same team with Wilt and Baylor. Not Baylor had retired, but you're fighting Wilt for rebounds, and you still get 13 a game.
Well, Happy, I will say that he really knew his role and how he could contribute to the team. Here's a player who led the league for forwards in rebounding. Now you got the Busher, great player and rebounder in New York, but Happy, he's out rebounding everybody. He played. He reminded me a little bit of Rodman. Reminded me a little bit of him in that he's long and he can run like a deer. Happy get out on the break, and that's he set screens. He get out on the break. He don't let him take a jump shot from outside of 15 feet because he's not a very good shooter. He also, at the end of the game, game's on the line, he's not jacking up any shots. He knows he's setting the screen for West or myself or McMillan. He's running the floor. He knew his role, and he fit in perfectly with our team. And yeah, I mean, he was a very instrumental player in us winning that championship.
So
but
you
he
had
could run like a deer, boy. I'll tell
Right.
you what, he get out on the break and he could, and then he rebound, and that's where he got his points in rebounding and running the
Right.
floor.
So other guys on that team that nobody talks about: Flynn Robinson, Leroy Ellis.
Flynn Robinson, a great shooter coming off the bench, instant offense.
Right.
Leroy Ellis played probably more forward than center because Wilt played most of the minutes at the center position. But when Wilt would come out, for a little rest, it was Leroy. He's St. John's guy,
I saw him in Jefferson High School too when he was so when we had that when you had the reunion, the championship reunion, I was invited to that. I was the only writer invited to the dinner, and I sat with Leroy and Flynn and Jerry and Wilt's sister Barbara at one table. You were there. You and I were talking. We were telling Jim McMillan's stories that he couldn't jump and all that. I remember that. But the story that sticks out the best was Leroy Ellis got up and spoke at the event after the dinner, and he talked about you started the 33 game winning streak against the Bucks, I believe, and I believe they ended it. He said that Bill Sharman played me every game during that winning streak except the last game. He felt that we needed Wilt in there more against Kareem, and he said we lost. He says, well, and Bill's laughing. Bill, what does that say? What why did you do that? You should have played me in that game. It was funny.
Yeah. Now, the guys coming off the bench, they made a great contribution. They really did. I remember, I guess, I don't know if it maybe the next year, but I was sick one game. Because I played almost every game. But I know Riley comes in off the bench and takes my position. He gets 30. Flynn Robinson, who can really fill it up from outside. He's another great outside shooter, by the way.
Yes.
But he could fill it up. We had good contributions, really from everybody. We were 6-3, and then we went on the streak.
And then Elgin retired. Jimmy took his spot.
That's right. Yeah. And, we went on the streak and we just, we played with a great deal of confidence, and we just we would figure out a way to win. There were only a couple of games that were really close in a sense, but And then, of course, Milwaukee beat us in Milwaukee that last game. And then I think we lost the next game, night 2 to Kansas City. I'm not positive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we lost 2 in a row. And then, we won 69 games that year. But at the end of the year, Sharman started resting us for the playoffs. I really think we could have won another couple ball games if we'd have played. But anyway,
Well, he was
69 was enough. We set the record, and it was good.
He was smart.
Yep.
He knew how to coach.
Yep.
Yeah. So that game. So now I think what we really need to talk about now is how you got from the Lakers to New Orleans. And I know there's a lot of tales told about that whole thing was because one of the draft picks that New Orleans got as compensation for you signing with them as a free agent turned out to be Magic Johnson in
Correct.
79.
Correct. Yeah.
But there's so many wrong things told about that, Gail. It's like, like people I still read it today. It's like, they made a trade. It was a trade. No, it wasn't a trade.
No,
it wasn't a trade. So you explain. It was not a trade.
No. Why did I end up there? Okay, let's go back to the year before my contract is up. The contract negotiations, okay? I go back the year before with the Lakers. Kareem comes to Los Angeles, and my contract's up. Excuse me. Yes, okay, my contract is up. And Larry Fleischer's my representative, the Players Association, great man. He represents me.
Right. He's the executive director of the union.
Of the Players Association.
Yeah, okay.
So my contract's up. And Jack can't cook. It was all about money. All about money. Nothing else matters. Money to him. So we're negotiating. And we are far apart. And, I'm a pretty good player there. Make a contribution. Cream's coming.
So what year is this? 75?
Yeah. The beginning of 75.
Right.
So we're negotiating. And he doesn't want to pay me. Now, I'm telling you, he doesn't want to pay me at all. He's paying other players more money. Not Kareem, but other players. So I hold out. And I miss all training camp. I miss the first 4 games of the season, all the practice. I'm holding out. So finally, Larry Fleischer says, and he's fining me, by the way, okay? So Larry Fleischer says, look, you got to go back. He's not going to break. He says, go back. At the end of the year, you're a free agent. Okay? So I do. And he fines me $30,000. Okay? $30,000 is over and above what he's entitled to, about 4. Okay? But he wants to make an example of me. So he fines me $30,000 and doesn't pay me the $30,000 for the whole year. Okay? So at the end of the year, I'm a free agent. So now the NBA and the ABA, they merge. So there's really no options because I'm not really a free agent, because the free agent, you get compensation from whoever takes you. Okay.
Right.
And the Lakers, with the merger, the Lakers They now want to cut my salary another 50%. Okay, that's the negotiations. That's the offer. So along comes New Orleans. And, they offered me a very good contract, 3 years, and very good money. And so I signed with them because the Lakers, I can't go there. I got to put groceries on the table, So, so I signed with them and I go to New Orleans. Now the league steps in, and Cook has a lot of, Jack Kent Cook, the owner, he has a lot of influence. And the league, there is really no free agency in that it's sort of like Curt Flood in baseball.
Well,
They have if you can go, they don't want free agents. They don't want team players playing.
Right. Gail, let me explain to people what was going on back then. So if teams couldn't come to an agreement on a trade,
Yep.
Regarding a quote unquote free agent, then the league would come up with a compensation package. And that's what happened with you.
Right.
Now, I was told, I called somebody yesterday and asked about how many people were in the league office in those days that could make such a determination on what Gail Goodrich is worth. You were 33.
Yep.
And so the only one that they said could come up with it was oh man, what's his name now? On the tip of my tongue.
It was Stern? No,
Stern wasn't there. It was Larry O'Brien. It was the deputy. O'Brien. It was the deputy commissioner, Simon Gordine.
Oh, okay.
Simon Gordine, by the way, who was up for a nomination to the Hall of Fame this year. He was the one that came up with the package of.
I didn't know that.
Of three picks. There was 2 number ones, and then a second round pick. And
I think it was three number or 2 number ones, an exchange of number one. So it was
then a swap.
And then a swap, and then a second. Yes.
And then a second. So this is how it happened. So this is how, there was no way that was a fair deal. And that went on. Of
course not.
That went on for a number of years. The Knicks, when they signed Marvin Webster, they had to give Lonnie Shelton and a number 1 pick to Seattle. That was the league determining that. So, and they went to court. Anyway. So that's the situation. So you're in New Orleans at 33, and a team that is going nowhere basically. Pistol is your
right
partner. But it's a team that's not going to win a lot of games. And so how could they took their number 1 picks away? It was ridiculous.
Yes. No. And by the way, I had to sue Jack Kent Cook for my $30,000 back.
Did you get it?
But what happens is that Cook sold the team to Bus, and they kept the $4,000 that they were entitled to. Yeah, I eventually got it. But I went through the lawsuit, the depositions, etc. I mean, it wasn't easy, okay? But you're right. Now we go to I go to New Orleans, and we're not very good. And we finished last, and so then they get the number 1 pick, and they pick Magic Johnson.
Yeah. And
Um,
so you got hurt when you were there. Pistol got hurt. You guys really were not compatible. Not compatible.
No, we were not compatible at all. I actually go down. I have an Achilles problem. It's shredding. I have an Achilles operation in January, just after the first of the year. And that's the first year. And then
he got hurt the second year.
Then and then I come back the second year. I played the next year, and then the third year. We're terrible, whatever. And they get Magic Johnson.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you signed with New Orleans,
yep.
Now, was Bill Burka, who worked for the Lakers,
yep.
Still works for the Lakers? Was he in New Orleans then?
Yes, yes, he was there in New Orleans. Bud
So, so,
Berghoff was
so
the
this is
coach.
unbelievable to me. So Bill Burker, who's probably about 95 now,
I don't
still
know.
works for.
Yeah. I just um, shared text messages with him over the weekend.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
he's about. I don't know what he is. He's a
he's
great man, a
95, I
good
believe.
fan.
I looked it
Yes.
up. So he was an assistant coach with the Lakers prior to New Orleans.
Right.
Then he ends up signing you. He's part of the signing with you, and then he goes back to the Lakers afterward. I mean, this. Wait a minute. Was he a spy? Was he like what was he
No,
doing
no,
there?
no. You know,
He took care of the Lakers.
Burke and I go back when he was in Santa Barbara and he was running
Oh man.
the recreation department. He's a great man, a great basketball
Oh,
man,
absolutely.
a great fan. But
Yeah.
yeah, he goes, but he was on our 72 team. We used to call him Tonto, Chief Scout, because he would scout the other team. He'd fly off, come middle of the night, come back with film, and we'd watch it. I mean, he's just a great individual. Um,
So you want to talk a little bit about Pistol?
okay.
What was it like? What was it like playing with him? He was having problems. He and I were fairly tight, so I knew a lot of his problems. I knew Truck Robinson and I were tight too, and he didn't appreciate playing with Pistol. I remember writing a whole column about that one time. And
Good.
but what was it like for you to play with him?
Well, first of all, I'm at the end of my career. I mean, I signed a 3-year contract. I expected to play 3 more years, and I did. And I was at the end of 3. I was 36. I was the oldest player in the league at the time. So, I go to New Orleans, and Pistol has great skills, as good as anybody. He can pass the ball, he can shoot it, he can score. Not a great defensive player, but a lot of players aren't, But he is definitely an impact player, and it was difficult because I had played with great players before and had won. I played with West, who is the best, okay, to play with. And we complemented one another very, very well. Pete and I just never complimented one another. And so it was difficult for me. He's got the ball most of the time, okay. And, but West had it too, that's okay. And I try to go without the basketball, but we never clicked. It just didn't work. So it was not, it wasn't pleasant playing with him. Pete, like I said, was very skilled and learned the game from his dad. Was always he was better than everybody else, generally speaking, when he played. And he didn't trust his teammates, in my opinion. He wanted to do it all by himself. And in many cases, he could. In high school, his team never won a championship in high school. At LSU, they never won. But he was a star. And he was better than, I mean, he's phenomenal. He was better than, and he could do it all by himself. And I always thought that Press, his dad, was partly responsible for that because Press wanted to make Pete a star, and he since he did, but they never won. Now in New Orleans, it's fair to say that we did not have, and he did not have, enough talent to win. Okay. But Truck Robinson was a very good player, and we went nowhere. Now I got hurt. Then the next year, Pete got hurt, Um, and Pete definitely wasn't himself after he had his knee injury. But I don't think that, I always said, well, he's a great player, but you're never going to win with him after playing with him. And I think you can say that about a lot of great players, actually. They're really talent-wise, they're great, but you're not going to win with them because they don't understand team basketball. And I've always said, basketball is a team sport, always will be. But
Did you ever talk? Did you ever talk to him about this? Did you ever talk to him? Did you ever talk to him?
No, never did.
What?
No,
Did you?
I never talked to him about that. I honestly don't think it would have done any good. But I mean, he would have just brushed it off. He loved his dad. He was very close to his dad, and I just don't think that he wouldn't have been that way if he played for John Wooden. I'll tell you that. It's really funny. Now you have the 3-point shot. I said, thank God we didn't have the 3-point shot then. I mean, with Pete, he could shoot it, but he never shot a great percentage.
Right.
But he could get his own shot. I mean, he was very, very difficult to guard. He could pass. He was flamboyant. I mean, he really brought basketball to another level in the South, and made it popular. I mean, he was the beginning of basketball in the South. There was no basketball really. I know Bob Pettit went to LSU, but there was no basketball in the South. Now, maybe that is part of that because of the racism that was going on at that time, and basically the black players all left that were. But it was really Pete who I think made basketball for the South, and yet it was difficult to play because I don't think he really understood the game from a team perspective. So anyway, that was my experience. That's my view.
I gotta correct you though on the South part of it. It's like North Carolina '57 team was undefeated.
That's right.
All
That's
New
right.
Yorkers played for Frank McGuire.
Yeah, Lenny Rosen.
Yeah, who just died last year.
Oh, did he? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tommy Kearns from my high school played on that team. Started on that team. But
jump ball.
Huh?
Yeah.
He
jump ball against Will Chamberlain.
Man, Gail, way to go, Gail. Yeah. So for people who don't know, Kearns was 5'10", and Frank McGuire had him jump the first jump ball of the game against Wilt.
Right. Yeah.
And Wilt was like, "What the hell?" Kearns became Wilt's his stockbroker.
Oh yeah. I didn't know that.
Remained friends forever
Yeah.
till the end, and he's still alive, Tommy.
Yeah.
But anyway, that there was great ball in the South. Frank McGuire brought everybody down there. The Underground Railroad, and then later on, Al McGuire doing the same thing at Belmont Abbey.
Right. Yeah, and then at Marquette.
Yeah, but I mean the South. I was just Belmont Abbey's outside of Charlotte.
Oh, that's right.
I'm being facetious, but and anyway, I know that Pete was a tortured soul.
Yeah,
I knew it. I never hung out with him. Don't get me wrong. We confided. He confided in me a lot. We disliked the same people, which I enjoyed. But
he was not a bad guy. He was a good guy.
I loved being around. I think I could have really, I really could have been friends with him, but it was difficult. And then I played in the last organized game that he ever played in before he died up at Kutcher's. The Stokes game had
game.
Yeah, they had an old timers game, and I was allowed to play. And then he died. He won the MVP of the game, and then he died.
It's very tragic. I think he was 39 years old. I think he's 40. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, what the hell? But last thing, Gail. We worked together for how many years at NBA TV, which I loved being there with you.
was
I'd
good
like,
times.
yeah, it was. I'd like, I put up I showed the people who were doing this, the photo, our last photo that we did a Stokes, whole hour of Stokes. Remember we interviewed Twyman and Oscar was in the studio.
Right, right.
If you want that photo, I'll send it to you. But that was a great night. But
It
I want to
was.
ask you. So you had partners. You Connie. Jerry West. Elgin. All these guys. Pistol Pete. Was I in that group as a partner? Who would you pick as your best partner?
Partner for what?
For what? Oh, whatever. Partner. Don't
Oh yeah, I mean,
don't belabor it. Just
listen.
say me.
One of the things that I really, one of the things that I was, I've always admired about you and the way you've conducted yourself and interviews and getting along with you know is as the press is that a lot of people that were coming into do basketball, we'll say at that time, were not always that knowledgeable about the game. And you had that knowledge. And so it was really refreshing to talk to you, to be around you and everything, because you understood the game. And when we would talk about basketball, and most of the times that's what we would talk about, but you understood the games where a lot of these people that maybe because they were younger or just coming into the profession, but they didn't really understand the game, and so that made it a little bit more difficult. But you always understood the game, and that was, like I said, very refreshing.
I appreciate that. I love the
Yeah,
history of the game. That's what I love the
yeah,
most.
exactly. And what's I mean, I grew up loving the game because of my dad. I knew the history, and I I can go back, to the 50s. I mean, I grew up with a basketball in my hand, and so I know the history. How do you take the young players today? They don't know the history. They're talented. They're quicker. They're faster. They're stronger. Um, they are amazing athletes. The game is played above the rim. But they don't know. They don't. I was just honored in Los Angeles as the honorary captain last Friday night's game. They don't. I bet you 2/3 of them on the Laker team didn't know who I was.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you. Actually, this actually happened, and I won't. And it's sort of funny, I mean. Here I'm the honorary captain, whatever, and the game is, and that's okay, I'm almost 80 years old. I don't mind it all, but I'm standing there, and they're going to introduce the Lakers, the starting lineup, and I'm standing there with them, and I got to do a Laker warm up and everything, and Ham, the coach, okay, the new coach, he's a rookie, so he says hello to me. I say hello. He says, how you doing? I said, I'm doing fine. I says, wait a minute, this is the actual conversation. I says, he says, how you doing? I said, fine. He says, and you? He says, oh, I'm good. I said, yeah, you're living the American dream. He said, I am. And he said to me, then he says, who are you? What's your name? And
God.
and I said,
Oh my
I introduced myself. I'm Gail Goodrich, and I said, I know who you are. I used to watch you play, and he laughed. But it's interesting because here's, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how old he is, but he didn't. He played. He's a good player, but he didn't know who I was. And
How about
that's okay. That's okay. I
Marvin?
don't mind that. I just find it interesting that the players today really don't know the players of yesterday.
It's sad. It's sad in his case because, like, hey, Darvin, see the court and then see the rafters. You might figure out who's who.
Well, let me tell you something. He's got other things on his mind, and he has other
Yeah,
issues on his mind.
No, sorry, no excuse.
At this point,
No
this year.
excuse.
But anyway, I'm not. I'm not. Like I said, I'm not. Going after him in particular or anything like that. It just illustrates that the young players, they have no idea, and they also have no idea what the players of yesterday, and even the players before me, went through to get where they are.
Right.
I mean, just talk about the negotiations and the free agency that these top players, and the ability now to make all this money.
Oh my goodness.
And of course the TV and everything else, the game has grown, but they have no idea what the players went through. And even, I mean, before me, the only reason a players association existed is because Bob Cousy and the players at halftime of the before the game started in the All-Star game said, we're not going to go out there and play. It's on national TV. That's one of the only games of the year on national TV. We're not going out there to play unless you recognize the Players Association. And our back and the owners, they finally caved.
Yeah,
but that's how the Players Association was created.
Yeah. There were a lot of threats that day at players, by owners, you'll never play for us again, whatever. But
exactly.
No, it's a shame. I'm going to leave it at that. Darby, Ham is whatever, doesn't know the game. I mean, you're a coach in the league, you would hope. But you know what? They had the voting. The coaches, active coaches and past coaches voted on the top 15 coaches of all time.
Yep.
And they did not have Alex Hannum among the top 15, and they didn't have John Condola, who only won 5 championships with Minneapolis. They didn't have them on the list. So I like you guys. You guys are like, it's a worthless vote. But meanwhile, they had Doc Rivers. I mean, I want to throw up.
Well,
but
come
on,
that's a little bit characteristic of how all these votes go, because everybody has a memory that is short and doesn't know the history. I mean, I can tell you, the Lakers only this year have honored George Mikan by putting his retired jersey up.
Individual, the individual. They had the Minneapolis Lakers Hall of Famers up there on one jersey, which is a joke. Slater, Martin, all those guys, they deserve their own jerseys. They're in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
They should have their own jerseys.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean,
we could do about 5 hours on this.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Will you be at the All-Star game?
No, I won't. No,
okay.
No. I mean, I do watch. I do like the 3-point shooting contest, and I do like the what's the other one they have? The slam dunk. I do like the slam dunk.
Yeah. All right, well, let me leave you on this. Did you ever dunk in a game?
No.
Can you dunk?
I dunk. No, I never tried. I dunk a couple of times in practice when I was at UCLA, and I used to take the ball. I timed when I was under the basket. I could time it where I could catch it and just about dunk it on a rebound, an offensive rebound.
Right.
But I never dunked because I learned from Wooden. If you don't dunk unless you're absolutely sure that you can dunk it, and if you don't miss it, don't miss it if you're playing for John Wooden, because that's and so I never I just lay it up. If you can't lay it up, then maybe I shouldn't be shooting it. But
all right.
So one thing I could do though is I could jump up and grab the rim, come down, and go right back up like a pogo stick
and touch it again
10 times in a row.
10 times in a row.
Oh. Yeah, so that I was a quick jumper, and if you look at a lot of rebounders, and I tell you that Elvin Hayes was one of the best. He was so quick off his feet. Bill Russell was quick off his feet. Wilt Chamberlain had to gather and jump. And
Yes.
so when you're driving to the basket offensively, Wilt was easy to shoot over because I could see when he was going to gather, and I could, either shoot it quickly or pass it or whatever. But Bill Russell, you better know where he is, because he was quick off his feet. He was quick off his feet. And if you didn't see him or didn't know where he was,
Yeah.
pretty soon you knew he was going to be there. And whether he blocked it or just altered the shot, it's the same as the block shot.
Well, I like that insight on Wilt. That's a good one. Hey, listen, Gail, thanks for your time. I know we overdid it today, but
no, this was a pleasure, Peter. It really was. Thank you. Thank you for
I'll-
bringing back a lot of old good memories for me.
I'm going to see you in Idaho one day. I'm going to show up in Idaho.
All right, just reach out to me. Let me know you're coming.
All right.
That's all.
Okay.
But listen, thank you very much. You really brought back a lot of very good memories I have today. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Well, I enjoyed it.
How do I press this little X at the bottom now?
Stay healthy. Stay healthy, Gail.
You too. You too. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Hoop du Jour with me, Peter Vecsey, presented by the National Basketball Retired Players Association. You can listen to all Hoop du Jour interviews by searching Legends Studios, wherever you get your podcasts.